Morning, ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a look at this big beast right here. Yes, the KV5. Now, my last video on the KV5 was actually not a great video in regards to talking about the KV5 and how good the tank is. It was completely the opposite. It was complete opposite to what I'm about to say in this video. Now, the last video I explained how crap, how useless this tank is because of the armor profile. It's a big tank, it's a big heavy tank, and it just had so many weak points, and there was no point playing it. There was no point buying or even playing the KV5 if you had even a KV4, because the KV4 didn't have as many weak points as the KV5 has got. Now, Wargaming buffed the KV5, and now, wow, what an absolute beast of a tank this is. Now, you can see the armor profile right here and how red everything is. Now, you've got the lower plate, which is 212 millimeters effective. Obviously, you got the upper plate, which is almost 300 millimeters effective, and obviously the more you look down at the tank, that becomes obviously the up plate gets weaker, but the lower plate gets stronger. And then you've got all the things in front of it. You've got the mantlet, which you can't pen. You've got this section here, which used to be easily pennable. Now that is 248 millimeters effective. You start angling, you're getting weaker there, but you can see the gist of things. And then you've got the other hatch in the front, which again is 244 millimeters effective. Of course, on the side of the turret, they do look not as red as everything else, but effective, you still have 290 millimeters, and that is looking directly at the tank, 300 there, and the other side again the exact same. The hatches on top are the weakest point of this tank. Now, you get into a hold down position, or sorry, a side scraping position, nobody's penning you apart from the sides. Of course, the side of the turret gets weaker, but as soon as you start to turn your turret, if you're in a side scraping position, that starts to get even more stronger. And of course, you need to hide the other side of your turret, and you need to try and hide those hatches as much as you can. But yeah, no one's going to pen you. No one is going to pen you. We've got two games for you. We've got two games. Two of them are completely different for different reasons. Now, let's head over and watch these two replays. So before we get into today's replays, we're just going to have a quick look at the statistics of the KV5. Now, the armor on paper is not great. 180 millimeters on the front, 180 on the hull and the turret, and 150 on the side. So it's got very strong side armor, and it's got very strong rear armor as well. 180 millimeters is on paper is not that much for a tier 8 tank, but it's a lot more than it says that it is on paper. So the DPM 2121, the reload time is 9 seconds. The penetration 230 on your APCR and 275 on your heat. This is with calibrated shells. I do run this thing with calibrated shells, because I think with the rammer, yes, you're sort of getting almost 200 DPM better, but the penetration I think is just not good enough. I mean, 290 on your APCR and 250 on your heat. So it does 320 alpha on your APCR and 270 on your heat, and it does 400 on your HE. Aim time not great at 4.4, and dispersion also not that great at 0.36, and it has 7 degrees of gun depression, and it's not bad speed, 40 plus kilometers per hour. So we've got two battles for you today, and both of them are quite different. One's about damage and one's about blocked damage. So we're going to watch this first guy here, and then we're going to watch myself driving the KV5. So the KV5, it used to be +2/-2 matchmaking back in the day of Blitz. However, the KV5 was never good enough for tier 10. That's why it had preferential matchmaking. Can you imagine this tank right now? Well, not right now, but before the buff, with against these E100s and VK90s and tanks like that? Yeah, it really would not perform well, and it never did perform well in tier 9. But yeah, Wargaming have buffed the tank, and they've buffed it really, really well, and it really is now a strong tank. And considering my last video was literally like, this tank sucks, and now I'm literally saying this tank is worth buying, and I love that. I do love that, how 1 minute there is a tank that is no point buying, there's no point using your gold for, and then the next minute Wargaming gives it some love, and now all of a sudden it's worth buying. I wouldn't say the tank is OP. I would definitely say it's balanced. It can be dealt with. Of course, if you switch to the APCR, you can pen it frontally quite easily. But if you're angled, then you will get a lot of bounces. And this tank is never about damage. It's never about dishing out that monster amount of damage. And you're never going to really see too many high damage battles in this tank, because it's not about damage. Played correctly, it is all about the block damage, soaking up the shots for your team, and I mean, making the tanks look at you while the enemy while your team shoots at them. And that there was a nice ammo rack. So of course, occasionally you are going to get the big damage games, and that's the same with any tank. I mean, there's tanks out there like the Mouse. It's not there for damage, it's there to soak up the damage for your team. But there's still times where people can still perform really, really well, and this tank is that. I've had a few 5k games in this tank, and that is before the buff. So at least now the buff, wow, what a shot that was against the SU 130. That was just an amazing shot there. So our guy here, he's blocked 1,500. He's on 3.2k damage already. That's enough for a tier 8 tank, and the KV5 at that. He's already done enough damage to help his team. If his team lose, that's not about him. It's not his fault. He's done all he could. He's blocked 1,500 damage. He's soaked up enough damage as well. That's enough block damage for me, in considering it's tier 8. That's enough damage to block, and he's top tier as well. But he's not finished yet. And I love the angles that he's getting at. And in my replay that I'm going to show next, we are going to showcase just how to angle, how you should be angling the tank, and then also how you shouldn't angle the tank. Because there's a couple of tanks out there, like the KV1, the KV220, and even the KV4. Sometimes you have to over angle these tanks, and when you over angle, people think they can penetrate you, so they shoot and they just bounce. But of course, this tank, like the KV4, is all about that. For me, it's all about that side armor. It's all about the side armor. But this tank never could really do that because it had so many weak points in the front. And that's why I always said there's no point buying this if there's a KV4, because the KV4 doesn't have the weak points that this tank has got. This tank had loads and loads of weak points at the front. I mean, frontally, anyone could penetrate it. Wargaming buffed it in the past, but I just think that they did not buff it enough. Now, I do have to apologize for the sound. There is no game sound, and that's because I've already recorded this this video once, but the sound messed up. It messed up my voice, and it messed up the in-game sound, so I've had to mute it and re-record the sound. So now we move on to my replay. Now, today, I've had one battle. Before recording this, I knew I wanted to make a KV5 video. I've been meaning to for a long time, and then I got that replay sent to me that you've just watched. So today, I've played one battle, just one battle, and this is that battle. Just one battle, and it goes to show, and this battle does really showcase how you should be playing this tank. And I try to play it as much as I can how I would recommend to play it, and I'm always doing that. So here we're looking at a KV4, and just look at the angles that I'm going at. I'm not going straight, and here is the AMX 5120, and just look at my angles. I mean, if he hit my bottom plate with APCR, he'd be able to penetrate. That's a tier 9 tank, and we blocked all 3 shells. The next autoloader comes, I'm looking at him, but again at an angle, and again there's 2 shells that we've just managed to block, and there's the 3rd shell we've managed to block. So 2 autoloaders, 2 French autoloaders coming at me, and we've managed to block all 6 of those shells. Absolutely amazing, and that is what this tank can do. The tank can do that when you are in the right situation. When you're in the right position, you have to over angle, and when you over angle, you will get bounces like I've got. Now we're up to 3.3 blocked damage. 3.3 block damage. We've only done 1.9k damage, which isn't a lot. It isn't a lot of damage at all, but again, like I said, this tank is not really about that damage. It's not about how much damage you do. It's more, for me, it's an armored tank. It's an armored tank. You need to be soaking up them shells. You need to be blocking the damage that is coming your way. And at least if your team, if the enemy are looking at you, then they're not looking at your team. And as long as you're angled correctly, you'll be able to get this block damage. Now I'm up to 4.1k damage. Yes, we have over angled there. We did get tracked, so we weren't able to sort ourselves out. But now we know that the AMX 5100, again, we get a nice bounce there, and now I know he's on a reload. So 4.4k block damage I've got from this guy. We're now going to go for the track just to keep him there, because this isn't the quickest of tanks. In a straight line, it's not too bad. The traverse isn't great, but yeah, we wanted to track him there. Now he is going to pin us. He's going to pin us, and you can see, looking directly at him, he is penning our cheeks and he is penning our hatch. That's why it is very, very important to try and side scrape and hide them. And we're pretty much just going to get this kill here into the rev, and it's going to be game over, because that guy over there is about to die. So 4.4 blocked damage, and we end up with 3.8k damage. Now bear in mind, I didn't take an hour or 2 hours trying to get this footage. This was just one battle that I've played today, and we still managed to get the steel wall there, and we managed to get the ace and all that block damage. And I'm happy about that, because it just showcases exactly what I wanted to showcase, and we did that. 4.5k block damage. Again, it doesn't bounce everything. It doesn't bounce everything, and bear that in mind. I don't want you to buy the tank when it comes available and people penetrate you, and I'm a liar. But I like what Wargaming have done. They buffed it enough so you can get that frontal armor, bounces on the frontal armor. But even that buff, it just, for me, it helps with the side scraping, because now when you are side scraping, there's a lot less weak points for the enemy to shoot at. And honestly, guys, in my opinion, when this tank does next come for sale, it is definitely worth thinking about purchasing, because it does come for cheap. It normally comes for around 5,000 gold, which now it's a fantastic price. So I love the buff. Thank you, Wargaming, for actually giving this tank some love. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.